Good morning, my apprentices of mathematics. Welcome to my channel. This is your coach, Mr. Magno. Today we're going to look at something called volume. This is our beginning lesson for Module 5, Lesson 1. Let's start simple. Let's start with one layer. Okay, this is what you call one layer, and this is volume. Each of these little cubes is called a cubic unit. I'm going to place that one over here. So that's what you call the cubic unit. Let me show you the side of it so you can see it better. See, this is a cubic unit, right? You've seen them before. You're very familiar with them. Okay, if you notice on this one right here, we have only one layer. There's going to be a couple of terms that you need to know. Layer. Okay, so layer is how many are on this first story. Let's say we want 2 layers, then I'm going to use a different color so you're familiar with the layers, and I'm going to place it on the top. And so now you can see that we have 2 layers. We have a layer of green and a layer of yellow. So that's one vocabulary word that you need to remember, a layer. The layers. So that's like how many stories high is something. Now we're going to move into something called, I think it's called columns. So when we have layers, and we have also, like in this case, we have 2 layers. If I can get this right, my pieces are falling apart. Okay, so we have 2 layers. So one is on the top and one is on the bottom, as you can see. And one of the challenges for students is sometimes to see how many there are on the back. And as you can see, there should be, because we have 2 layers, whatever is on the top, it's on the bottom. So for these ones to be on the top, there has to be something below it. So how many layers do we have there? We have 2 layers. Now, there's also we're gonna talk about columns. Like if you think about this one has 2 columns, and I'm going to separate them. There they are. So we have 2 columns. So this particular solid has 2 columns, and each column, if we can rotate them, if you can count them, you can see how many each column has. It has 4, and this one has 4. Now when we put them back together, now we have a shape that has a volume, and the volume for this is going to be 8. So if you count layers, you know that you have 4 units on the top layer and 4 units on the bottom layer. And you can also do it this way. You can have 4 units on one column, and you can show 4 units on the opposite color, on the opposite side, the column. So there they are. So that's what we're talking about today. Now, we're going to look at the area of this particular shape. So let me move up and show you this. Let me focus here. Now we can see that we have that shape. Now let's highlight the area. The area is where this solid shape is sitting on, and obviously it should be 4. So this is the area. Okay, now the area, as you can see, we're going to be working with 2 formulas. Formula number 1 is going to be area. Area equals length times width, and volume equals the area times length times width times height. So remember that the volume, we're going to replace the area, which is A, and we're going to break it apart into the 2 parts that make it. It's length times width, and then we have the height. So these are the formulas that we're going to be working on. Like in this case, the area for this shape, it's 2 cubic units, and the width is 2 cubic units. All right, so the area, if you want to do the area for this one, will be area equals length times width, and the area will be 2 cubic units times 2 cubic units equals area equals going to be 4. Now, we're not going to call them cubic units anymore. We're going to call them square units. Why square? Because squares means 2. That means you have 2 dimensions. So square units. Okay. All right. Let's move on to one more example. So let's now look at the same shape. So that's going to be again 4. So the volume for that will be 4 cubic units. Right? Why? Because we can count them. This is 1. So there are 4 in that particular shape, in that particular solid. The other aspect of this is we're going to look at how to find the volume of things. So for example, the volume of that one, so the volume will be volume equals length times width times height. So what is the length? Well, it's 2 cubic units. What is the height? The height is going to be what you see going up. It is difficult to show on a one-dimensional sheet, but this is the height. So the height is 1. So we know that the length equals 2 cubic units. Let's move back up to the 1 dimension. If you pay attention, then like I said, this is the length is 2 cubic units. The height is 1 cubic unit, and the width, which will be this one right here, is 2 cubic units. So the width, 2 cubic units. Now, I cannot emphasize this a lot. This is 1 dimension, 2 dimensions, 3 dimensions. When we find volume, when we define volume, this is what happens, and you need to make sure you understand this. Volume equals length times width times height, which means volume equals 2 times 1, which is the width, times the height, which is 2. So when we multiply this, 2 times 1 equals 2, 2 times 2 equals 4. The volume is 4. For what? Remember that I said that you have 3 dimensions. So the answer is going to be 4. We call it what is the cubic units. I think that's what it is. I'm not. I think I'm doubting myself a little bit right here because I call them units, cubic units right here, which also is the area, which is okay. Yeah, this cubic because we have. Let me see. So yeah, these are cubic units. Anyways, so this is the first lesson, and we're going to. I will show you one more in a moment. Your coach signing out, please. And look, this is the expectation when we find volume. This is the formula I want to see broken down exactly the way I showed you. My friends, we are now starting module 5 lesson 1. How exciting. Yes.